Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on the March 8 Show. How is everyone doing? I hope to see everyone joining and commenting in the chat. If you're tuning in live, obviously, please engage with us. We'd love to know where you are tuning in from today, and I'll be giving some shout outs throughout the show. So make sure you're letting us know everything in the comments to the side of me. We've got a really exciting half an hour lined up today. We've got two special guests who we will be introducing shortly. We'll be discussing the topic of women in STEM. Obviously, this is a key topic for us. And for those of you who don't know, March 8 is hosting Women in STEM as part of Tech Live London, which is on June 23rd to the 24th. Of course, if you're not located in London, don't worry. The hybrid event can be accessed from any device around the world, with all speaker sessions streamed out live, interactive capabilities to join in on live Q&A sessions, and network with fellow attendees. So make sure you're engaging today, because we will be giving out some free tickets for Tech Live London throughout today's show. And we'll be in contact with you after today's episode to reach out and offer them out. So, of course, I'm your host for today, Emily Cook, and I'm excited to invite to the stage March 8's Editor-in-Chief, Lucy Buckles, who will be joining us in this conversation.
Hi, Emily. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing really good. My light just had to turn back on. How are you today, Lucy?
I'm really good, thank you. Super excited to be back on the show. Obviously, I love doing these LinkedIn Lives on March 8. And also, we have two very special guests joining us later, don't we? So really excited about welcoming them to the stage as well.
Yeah, it's our first episode with some guests. So I think today's episode is basically going to be an interview with our two special guests. But before we get ahead of ourselves, I wanted to mention our poll that we have running at the minute. Obviously, today's session is all about women in STEM, more specifically in gaming. But our poll for today is, what percentage of women are CEOs in STEM industries? So there's 4 answers. You can see the poll below, and it'll be in the chat. So make sure you go vote in it. The answers that you can vote for are 32%, 18%, 9%, and 3%. So everyone go vote. Let us know what you think. The answer is, obviously, there's a few different ones in there, some that we really don't want it to be, but we'll see. Lucy, what do you think of the poll, and do you have an answer that you think you'd vote for?
I honestly don't know with this one. I think it's really tricky, isn't it? I would like to say 18%. I mean, I'd like to obviously say more than that. I mean, I think it's quite shocking that 32 is the highest percentage there. Obviously, in an ideal world, I'd like to see more than 50%. But I'm going to say 18 because I know it's a bit harsh, isn't it? It's a bit cruel. We need to get a lot more women involved. So I'm going to say 18%.
Yeah, I think obviously that is kind of the reasoning and behind today's discussion and event, is that we're raising awareness. We're doing what we can to get to use our platform to share about these statistics regarding women in STEM. So I think it's super important that we use our platform to discuss all of this. So that kind of leads me on to introducing our two special guests. We spoke about them a little bit last week. They're familiar faces to those who have read our magazine, but Lucy, you know them best, so why don't you introduce them?
So joining us today is Lucy Rissick, CEO and founder of Brotherhood of Brands and Partnership Director for Women in Games, and Lauren Kay, Marketing Manager at Women in Games and founder of the She Plays podcast. So both of these ladies featured in the Game Changer article of March 8 magazine issue 2, and they gave us a really interesting insight to how and why it's important to encourage more women to join the gaming industry. The link to the article is in the chat, but without further ado, please welcome Lucy and Lauren to the stage.
Hi guys.
Hi guys, how are you?
Good, thanks. Doing well.
Yeah,
Good.
not too bad. Not too stoked about the weather change. I want the sun back.
I know.
Definitely.
I hate that I have to have artificial lighting right now, and because outside is so miserable, it's actually I've got to get on a train in a bit as well, so that's going to be fun.
Oh, but yeah, no, other than that, doing well.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both for joining us today. Obviously, we haven't really caught up since we had the chat about the game-changing article. I hope you both liked it. And yeah, I think from feedback, a lot of people have said that it was one of their favourites. So you did a really good
that's
job.
great. That's really
Yeah.
good. Well, thank you for featuring us as well. It's great to sort of put the video games word out there a bit further.
Absolutely.
Oh, completely. It was so nice. I loved the spread, and I loved what you wrote as well. I thought it was a really beautiful piece.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, and like I said, we spoke about it last week because it was my favorite piece from the magazine. I spoke a little bit about being a gamer myself and having the kind of the response of being a woman in the game, you know, a woman gamer online and things like that. So me and Lucy had a discussion about that last week. But I wondered if you guys could introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about what you do, and maybe Lauren, if you'd like to start.
Sure. So currently I am the marketing manager at Women in Games. So I do all of their sort of social media marketing across LinkedIn, Twitter, and their Facebook group as well. But then how I actually got involved with Women in Games to start with in any sense is I created the She Plays Games podcast, which is a podcast that is dedicated strictly to women in the games industry. I feature women of the many different roles in the games industry in an effort to really highlight the different areas that women can join the games industry, because I think a lot of the times, you know, people look into our industry and think well, what can I do? Can I do I have to be a streamer? Do I have to program? Do I have to be really good at graphical art? And it's no, there's so many different ways that you can join the games industry. And so yeah, I just bring on every type of women in games, and it's been really amazing. We're releasing episode 81 tomorrow, which is just mad to think that there's been 81 episodes, but it's been really fun.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, Lucy, take it away. Please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
So, yes, I'm Lucy Rissick, and I have two hats, very much like Lauren as well. So I have my own agency called Brotherhood of Brands, which basically looks at how we put brands inside the games. So it's kind of creating culture inside the games. So I've worked across things like Sims and FIFA and Need for Speed. And I currently, I'm independent, but I'm currently working on the latest F1 games, which is all very exciting. This is what everyone's talking about, Formula One.
Yeah.
So it's quite good, but I work generally with streetwear brands, or I've worked with street artists, and it's about creating culture and sort of making it look right and fit right inside the game, and creating sort of marketing ideas outside. And then my other hat, which is the Women in Games hat, is that, so I'm partnerships director. So I generally look after any partnerships that come in that aren't media based or sort of social media based, but I look after lots of our corporate ambassadors. I look after our sponsorship for our events. And I go out and talk to a lot of people generally is one of those things, and kind of spread the word of video games and women in games. But we're sort of growing and everything is changing, which is very exciting. And the world seems to be waking up to video games a bit more, like they should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I think definitely we're trying to get the conversation going even more, aren't we? And a lot more people are latching on. But I mean, how did you both get into gaming, and what do you love so much about the industry?
I mean, for me, I've always been a lurk. I always say that I'm a bit of a lurker of the games industry. I came in from journalism, so I basically was really into Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy, which are two really big franchises. And one of my friends came to me one day and was just like, Lauren, do you want to just talk about Kingdom Hearts on a podcast? And this was 12 years ago when podcasts were not a thing. And I was just like, sure, I'll go in and talk about Kingdom Hearts for a half hour. That sounds like fun. And from that, I actually met my husband now, Daryl, and got to work on the site quite a bit. did reviews for games, and all sorts of things. And I think like from that experience, it really kind of made a path for me to get into where I am now, where I could utilize things like social media. Like social media was so new then. Twitter like was not nearly the beast that it is now. And it was really fun to sort of find my way into in and out of games, really. And recently we've been doing content creation on YouTube, which I always wanted to do content on YouTube, and we finally got it to work with Final Fantasy Union. And yeah, it's just been a really incredible, weird, fun journey. But it's not fallen yet, and I'm really happy about that.
Good, that's good. Their content's really good, by the way, as well. I've seen
Oh,
they're
thank
growing
you so
amazing as well.
Thank you.
Throw it in. But no, I mean, for me, the games industry it's funny. I remember playing. I always quite liked video games when I was growing up, and I had a Game Boy, and I even had, and this shows my age, the old flip style Mario Kart, Donkey Kong. They'd go up the side, Nintendo games, which shows how old I am.
Oh, love it.
You come and go inside video games, and at different point in your life you watch them. I also used to love like Champ Manager and everything else. But for me, and funny enough, Lawrence mentioned her husband. My husband, I met him and he was in the video games industry, and that's kind of what brought me in. And actually, there's a lot of couples in the video games industry. I think you're in this kind of world of video games and everything else. And a friend of mine started an agency just after I'd had children. And actually, I've come to the games industry late. I didn't really start that part of my career until I was 30. And a few years ago. Anyway, but I came to it, and I just had kids, and she was like, well, why don't you come and work with me and do a few hours? And she was doing something very similar that I do now for Xbox. And it just grew from there. And I think this is really the case for a lot of people in the industry. And what people don't realize, actually, I think what young people don't realize these days is they seem to think, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to do. And it really isn't like that. And career paths aren't straight, and you sometimes, I've got a law degree as well. Like I started with that. So, and sometimes you suddenly go, actually, this fits me so much better. And like Lauren said earlier on, it's actually finding out those roles are available in the industry. And what people don't realize is the games industry actually has such a wide variety of roles. You don't need to just be a coder. They have people in there who basically just go out to the music industry to find music to go into the games. And that's their whole job. Or fashion designers, they're stylists in video games these days. It's all very different.
It's all very cool. I think a good point now is like, this is a hobby to some people. Like, obviously gaming is a huge hobby, and now it's getting to the point where you can kind of transform that into a job, whether it's like Lauren, you said, like streaming or being like some sort of influencer. You can now kind of make what you do in your out of hours office into your day to day, which I think is really fascinating. And that's probably something that recently has come into play a bit more. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, I would have never have gotten to where I am without like how fluid the games industry has been sort of putting itself into our society. Like, it's insane to think how video games has evolved in 10 years time. Like, I think it's really it's just the fact that we've all connected so well, and connecting online is something that we've done well for the last like 20 years, because we had to, because that's how we had to play games. And so it's just kind of like a pinnacle of everything that we've been sort of working towards as gamers ourselves. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, like within the past 2 years, like having, with the pandemic and people literally having to be locked inside, that gaming kind of brought people together a lot more. I don't know if there was like a massive increase. I don't know what you guys saw being in the industry.
Do you know what else it did? I mean, obviously brought people into the industry, and actually there's some amazing campaigns. Microsoft did an amazing campaign for like back grandparents getting Xboxes to talk to their grandkids.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Interesting way of like looking at it. It's brilliant. but I think it was just seen as more acceptable. And this is the biggest thing. And actually, there's a lot of people who hide that they're gamers. There's lots of people who don't talk about them. This is something people going, oh yeah, I play that game. Or people didn't realize that they're playing video games half the time anyway. They don't realize Wordle is a video game. It is. That's breaking news 21, Wordle is a video game.
Yeah.
As is, Candy Crush, Words with Friends. And people are doing Kahoot quizzes. Now, Kahoot's are fantastic.
Yeah.
It's made by an Italian education video games, but it's a video game. And I think that social side of it just opened the world for everyone. And it meant that at a time when we couldn't be social, it meant you still had that human connection. And I think people may realize that it's not, I always say it's not 14-year-old boys in dark bedrooms with a Red Bull. And that's not what video games are. And, that sort of side of it, people, you could see your kids playing games and they're talking to their friends like they would do at school. And it's just that connection thing, that human connection. And it's not just computer connection, I think was really important.
Yeah, my daughters were really into, my eldest was mainly really into Animal Crossing during that time. Like she could have her villagers. My favorite anecdote is the fact that like she had this really beefy, stocky, like cow character who he wore like a metal shirt. Like it was a shirt with flames on it.
Nice.
So this is talking like macho guy. And she just gave him a dress. She gave him a dress and he wore it every day. And like he's wearing the dress that I gave him and the purse. And I was just like, this is so adorable. And she made her own clothes as well. Like she would make hats, dresses, shirts, everything. She's like, look at this Fall Guys shirt I made, or the Sonic the Hedgehog shirt I made. Like it was it just was really, really fantastic to have that. I don't know how we would have gotten through lockdown without my Switch, honestly.
I mean, on that note, why would you say it's so important for you guys to encourage more girls to the gaming industry?
Well, from my point of view, I think diverse teams make diverse games, and I think that's the big sort of thing for me. I think because of there still is, well, to begin with, it's not it's an industry that's 50% of games are played by women, and at this moment in time, there's only just over 20% of the people making the games or involved in the industry are women, and this seems really wrong. And you're missing out on this, amazing different people who might have different views and have emotion, which isn't a bad thing, or bring other ideas to it. And I think we are still living in a world where there are games where all the women look like Lara Croft and men are all shapes and sizes. And that comes because of, sometimes you need a female voice in the room who's going, hold on a second, we don't look like that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't look like that.
Yeah. I think like as well, like what Lucy was saying earlier, like I remember me growing up, I had a girlfriend who I knew was into Final Fantasy like me. And there wasn't very many friends that I had growing up, like who were actually into the same things as me. And she didn't want anybody to know because of the social toxicity that she would receive if she associated herself with me, which is just ridiculous and sad. But that is what it's like. It's like there is this social etiquette that still says that girls don't play games, boys do. And I think as well, like it's really heartbreaking because there are the many of us, that play games who are women. And to feel like there's an industry, the industry that we felt so accepted by rejects us in a lot of cases is really heartbreaking. And I think like, that's just something that is really, really, it's something that we really need to remedy because, women should feel accepted 100% in the games industry because we love games. We love games.
I think as well, like obviously you both have been in these, your respective industries for quite a while. I mean, what have you noticed in the past, I don't know, 5 years? Has there been a massive shift in, conversation of people saying, actually, we need to bring a female voice into the room, or actually we need a different opinion on this? Has there been some sort of kind of like remedy to come from these conversations?
100%. I mean, like, I think not only have we raised voices of women through initiatives like Women in Games, But we've also just seen so many companies take steps in order to highlight women that are in their studios. And I think the biggest thing is the accountability. We are holding companies who have toxic cultures accountable and saying, hey, this isn't right. And having everybody else join in and say, actually, yeah, we agree this isn't right. Let's not do this way anymore. Which is totally unlike it was 12 years ago. I had a friend who was a journalist. It was a really big controversy called Gamergate. Had her whole career ruined because of an article that somebody else wrote about her, because of an article that a man wrote about her. Had her whole career just completely destroyed because nobody believed her and people just made insinuations off of what she was and what she represented, and it was horrible. And I just don't think that would happen in the same way as it did then.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think there's definitely been shifts in the industry. I mean, even from my point of view as well. And I also think we are recognizing it more, to be honest, and we're calling it out more. And for ages, I know I've sort of been thinking, oh, this guy, and every now and then it's actually like those casual moments of sexism or you know, like that. And you sort of go, oh yeah, that wasn't right. But they're just not having it as much as perhaps, you know, you're seeing it called out more in the industry. There have been some huge companies within the games industry who have been massively called out, and for the right sort of reasons, you know, and people are going, look, this isn't acceptable, you know, and the games industry, I think, because often, as I like to say, you know, if you think of like the movie industry as being like a millennial like now sort of age, the games industry is still like Gen Z. They're like still, well, really teenagers, and then, you know, esports is even younger. So you know, in development of sort of even ED&I, or development of, you know, women in the industry, sophistication, they're still behind some of this. So that's what's probably been more highlighted over the last couple of years. But it's definitely, we are seeing some huge change, which is exciting. And actually, other companies outside the industry coming into the industry. So obviously very much on my sort of side, when I see huge fashion brands becoming involved, or like big brands sponsoring different things, that is showing that the industry has to change and it is growing up, and you know, that sort of side is lessening.
We're big kids now.
We are. We're getting there.
We can get the big meal and everything. We don't have to get the Happy Meal anymore. Although I do want it.
Exactly.
We want the toy, yeah.
I do still want the toy, but it's my choice to have the toy.
Exactly. Only because I want it, yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's super fascinating. And I think both of you guys kind of in Women in Games and doing your kind of marketing and partnerships, I suppose you guys are on like the forefront of promoting women in the gaming industry. So I wondered if you could kind of let us know what you guys are doing in that sense to kind of push this forward. You know, how are you guys using your voice, your platform?
Much time do we have?
We have a couple of minutes. But an answer each.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, I know Lauren is doing some, I can sort of say, so I mean, she's part of it as well. We've got a huge festival that's coming up in September that will be very important. And that covers 2 weeks, and it's a global sort of festival. So as Women in Games globally, we actually have some individual ambassadors all over the world. We're about 752 countries. We have 45 corporate members. So we are growing like this. But we have this amazing remote event that happens in September. And it's everything from like a games jam to awards to everything. But not only that, there is also things that we're actually looking at for change. So at the moment, we're creating a guide. It's all about making a fairer playing ground that is actually going. We've worked with ISFI, which is our European trade body, and it's going for European Parliament. It's going, you know, and then individually to certain countries as well. And this is so super important, because I get really fed up of women's groups who seem to just tick box or post a meme or something on their LinkedIn, and we don't see enough action. And that this sort of policy things and our events are the most important thing for action and actually sort of seeing change in the industry.
Oh yeah, I completely agree as well. Yeah, September, the Women in Games events are incredible, and you meet so many incredibly supportive women in the games industry as well through it. There's some really great panels. You learn a lot. You also get to connect with some really big studios as well. There's always like panels where you can speak to people who are, talent recruiters or other people who are in the roles that you want to get into. Like, it's really, really a fantastic event. So like, I can't say anything else other than that. And then the guide I got to be a part of, so I'm excited about that as well. Yeah, it should be really awesome. But yeah, that's basically it.
We decided 2022 was a year of action, like, because we've all been sitting inside for so long, like, let's go and do stuff. So it's been lots of events for us, and then like doing this guide and a few other bits. It's really exciting.
Yeah, it's gonna be so good.
And just to add on to that a little bit, just very quickly, what advice would you give to girls that are interested in pursuing careers in the gaming industry?
I'd say the biggest advice that I always think about, because there's a lot of stuff, but always apply. Essentially, like, you're never going to completely match a job spec. It's just, it's so hard for that to happen, because what they're looking for, and I actually got this from one of the events that we just hosted, Women in Games, is like, they're looking for a unicorn dressed in a gold leaf, and you don't have to be that. Apply. If there are certain things that maybe don't measure up to what the job spec is saying, that's okay. It might be something that they just put in there just to tick a box, or it might be something in there that maybe it's like ideal if they had, but you can work up towards quite easily and get experience in the role. So yeah, that's what we always see, is that men will apply for a job that they feel like 60% qualified for, and women will only apply for a job unless if they are like 80 or 90% qualified for, and that cycle needs to stop.
It does.
Essentially. We need to just apply.
It definitely does. I 100% agree with everything Lauren said, but also, I mean, I think they're cut from the same cloth. But also, it's definitely I think for girls and coming up through everything, I think like research everything, like really just spend some time, look at what people are doing, look at jobs. I mean, like, come, even sort of our events are open to everyone, like, come and just sort of experience this. Some other fantastic organizations of the games industry all talk about how to get into the industry. And I think, just have a little look and get out of your head that it's just coding. And that's all you can do, and then realize that actually there has to be someone that does it. So that's some of the best advice, is that someone has to do this stuff. So why can't it be you? And I think as a young girl, that's like, why can't you go and present and be an amazing sort of influencer or YouTuber or anything else? Someone's going to do it. So go out there and enjoy it and do it.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, love that. That was a good. That was a good little. A good note to kind of wrap up today's interview. I'm afraid that is all we have time for, but I know that we could probably talk about this topic for hours, right? It's like there's so many layers to it, and you can really break it apart. But unfortunately, that's all we have time for our little interview. But obviously, thank you so much, Lucy and Lauren, for joining us on today's show. It's been so lovely to speak with you both. And obviously we're going to stay in contact. We've got so many exciting things coming up, that you guys can promote on our community. We'd love to kind of introduce everyone to Women in Games. So thank you both for joining us. We'll see you shortly, I'm sure.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Awesome. Oh, they're so lovely. Now it is time to jump to a quick ad break before we wrap up today's show. Please enjoy. This is the end of event Showreel from last year's Technology, AI and Cyber Live, the inaugural event that we hosted. It will provide you with an insight of what to expect at our upcoming Tech Live London event. So enjoy, and I'll see you after the break.
Welcome to the inaugural Technology, AI and Cyber Live. Are you excited?
A lot of the very mundane work is going to get automated. A lot of people think that's a pipe dream. world that armies fought in the past could be almost decomposed by a group of people.
They were using data scientists before data scientists were called data scientists.
I'm Lieutenant Colonel Aaron Salaya from the U.S. Space Force.
And welcome back from that short ad break. I forgot I was in that video a few times. It's been a while since we recorded that, so always great to see. Obviously, that is just an insight for the upcoming Tech Live London event we have coming up. Make sure you see the link in the chat to sign up for your tickets, and we're also giving some free away today. But we now have to wrap up the show, and it's finally time to discuss the results of our poll. Lucy, I wondered if you want to say anything, if you want to wrap it up for us. It's up to you.
No, I'm just really excited to hear what you have to say with the poll. Like I said, my answer earlier, but I have no idea what the answer is.
Okay, right. Well, we'll give you a surprise then. So obviously everyone who voted in the poll, the question is, what percentage of women are CEOs in STEM industries? We've got 32, 18, 9 and 3%. And it absolutely breaks my heart to announce that the answer is 3%. 3%? I don't think everyone, yes, it is 3%. I don't think everyone, some people got that right, as you can see. Yeah, so it was like the second voted answer. But I mean, I think that's absolutely devastating. Obviously, we'll do everything we can to boost that number. But yeah, Lucy, I mean, you're surprised by that, obviously.
Yeah, I think that's. I actually don't know what to say to that. I mean, obviously, I thought that 18%. I thought 32% was low. The answer A, but 3%. You don't even want to think about that. Like that's awful. Yeah. That's 300 women.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, you know, the STEM industry is a massive industry, but 3% is such a small number that I don't know, it's even hard to imagine how small. So I think these conversations we're having today, bringing women into the conversation, bringing women, you know, inviting them to job roles and excelling them and elevating them is really what we want to do and is our pure aim here at March 8. So we hope everybody in the chat joins us in championing the next generation of female leaders. We have overrun today a little bit on the show, but I just want to wrap it up and say thank you so much, everyone, for joining us in the chat. I completely agree with whoever said we need more men allies. 3% is devastating. You're absolutely correct. But we do have to wrap up for today. Obviously, we hope to see everyone at Tech Live London. We love to connect, so make sure you reach out to us on LinkedIn. We hope everyone has a great rest of their day, and we'll see you all in 2 weeks' time. See you later.
Bye.